firstly, here's the subject that never fails to get you talking. The Broad Marsh. Yes, earlier this week you heard how Nottingham City Council is hoping for a bid of £20 million from the government's Levelling Up scheme, and it would allow work to resume on the derelict site. Here's the City Council leader, David Mellon.
We are positive about our bid, and we're very hopeful that we will get some money, but it wouldn't solve all the questions anyway. We are working in partnership with a lot of other people, and we have always said we don't want to do Broad Marsh by ourselves. We'll need to be in partnership with private investment as well as with government funding as well.
Well, they're not the only ones looking for money. Stapleford artist Rachel Carter has started fundraising for a sculpture that's going to be a focal point in the redeveloped Broad Marsh. Here's Rachel now. Hello.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for having me on.
Pleasure. Tell me about your sculpture.
So it's been a fantastic project. I've been working with over 250 members of the community this year to co-produce a sculpture. And it's based on the contributions of women and around the textile industry, of which Nottingham is one of the many cities that was built on wealth of textiles.
Of course, yes. Lace Market, a stone's throw from Broadmarsh. So what would the sculpture look like then?
So it's going to feature two women, and the models were actually from our very community. Louise and Judy were dressed head to toe in a historic costume, and one is representing a textile worker from the early 19th century, and the other woman is representing a woman of African origin who's been taken from her homeland and forced to work in the cotton fields as enslaved labour. And they're coming together in this joyous pose, coming together of history, sharing our cultural history, and really hoping that people then will see the sculpture, interact with it, and prompt questions. We want people to have conversations about our rich cultural heritage.
So historical, but themes very relevant to now. You've obviously done a lot of work with the plans, as you just mentioned there. How far down the line are you? How close to reality are you?
Well, we got a fantastic grant from Arts Council England, and that allowed us to do all the community projects and develop the sculpture. And I'd like to invite listeners to come along and see the unveiling of the scale model. We're going to have an exhibition at the Nottingham Society of Artists Gallery on the 20th to the 25th of September. And I've lined up some fantastic special guests, including the Lord Mayor and the Sheriff of Nottingham. And then you can find out more about how we want to fundraise the bronze casting element of the sculpture. It was really important with the community that I've worked with that the sculpture is about the local community, but it's funded by the people as well. So Arts Council England, every penny of their money comes from lottery. So when people buy a lottery ticket, a small percentage goes towards arts and culture, which is a fantastic way to show our support.
Am I right in thinking you need something like 300 grand to make this happen?
Yeah, well, that's our big target. So we'd love for the statues to be life-size. So there's that level of personal engagement with people as you approach these two ladies. We've already nicknamed them the Lionesses of Broadmarsh. So our aim is to have a life-size. But I think we're going to just see how the fundraising goes and announce what stages we've got to as we go along.
I'm sure, you won't need telling this, Rachel, and no one needs telling this, but there's been so much uncertainty about Broadmarsh and the site, and here we are, even now. How much of that plays into what you can and can't do?
Well, this is a separate project, but however, the council have been really supportive with this project. They're really keen that Nottingham as a city, we highlight our cultural diversity. So they're really keen on having the sculpture in the green heart of Broadmarsh. And what a perfect setting to be right near the library building. So, if people engage with the sculpture, they can then go into the library, find out more, research their own family history and ancestry, or find out about our wider cultural connections with the rest of the world. So it's a real sort of chance to open up those conversations, but also provide options for further learning and engagement.
So whereabouts do you think, as you mentioned there, the green kind of quarter of this, people might be aware of some of the plans, but it's sometimes difficult to kind of picture it because at the moment it is kind of still, pretty much demolished. So whereabouts would this statue ideally go?
So I've been part of the steering group looking at the Green Heart, and it's just an amazing opportunity for a city the size of Nottingham to be put in this huge green space in the centre of our cities. Because as we all know, through lockdown, the places that people were turning to were green spaces for their mental well-being, for a chance to connect with nature. So it's amazing that our city are going to be incorporating this huge green space the size of Market Square in the Broadmarsh. And I'd love for that, our lionesses of Broadmarsh to stand proudly amongst all this fantastic greenery.
Great stuff. Well, good luck. We've got Rachel's details here. She's got a website. If you check that out, then how you can get involved and also go along to this sneak preview as well that Rachel mentioned there in September. We have the details here at BBC Radio Nottingham.